Hi, as you can see, our next crochet tutorial is for my Smartdoll. But if you've got any other doll of a similar size head, so between an 8 and 9 inch all the way around, it should fit. Or again, if it's a little bit tight, use a larger hook and it will make the actual hat a little tiny weeny bit bigger for you. It is a really simple hat to make. Obviously, I just popped a pom-pom on. It could be just a beanie if you wanted to leave it like that. And I've got one of my little Octopudding buttons there, which you'll see a little bit closer when we go top down. It is in a double knit yarn, I think then, for some reason, I don't know why. It is in a double knit yarn, and also I'm using a 3mm crochet hook, and don't forget UK terms. I'm going to put a little conversion. I think I said on the last one I was going to put it on the pattern. I will put it on the pattern, but I think, you know, on the description for YouTube, there's a little bit underneath that's description or links and things like that. I'll put a small conversion chart there just for the stitches that you need for this pattern, because it does make a difference between the US and the UK. Not sure about anywhere else in the world. Please let me know if you're in another part of the world but you only use US or you only use UK. I'm not quite sure how it goes, so it would be nice to know to make sure I'm sort of working it out for everybody basically. But I'm in the UK. I'm used to UK terms, so that is predominantly what I do, and that is why the tutorials are like that. But we're going to make this little hat for my Smartdoll here. I think she looks super cute, and we're going to go top down and get on with some crochet. I'll see you in a second. Here we are with the Smartdoll hat. As you can see, she's modelling it absolutely beautifully there. And this is what I mentioned. I don't know whether you can read that there. This is my Octopudding buttons that I've had made. So if I do commission work or I'm selling them at a doll show, something like that, they will have these little buttons on, just sort of give me my little logo. So pleased with those buttons. I know you might have seen them on one of my other videos, but this is the hat that we're going to be making. It is nice and simple. I'm going to pop her to one side and we'll have a look at what we've got. Now, as you can see, I've actually done it in some other colours as well. I think the green's my favourite. So as much as I'm going to be doing these for a doll show, I do want to do another one in green, because I want one in green for my girl. So I'm going to be keeping it because I think it so suits her in the green. So those are just a few others that I've done. So we can move them to one side as well. I don't know why I've got the beads there, because that was for my last project. They shouldn't have been there at all. I am using a double knit yarn. This is a Stylecraft yarn, and I just love how you get this sort of mottled variegated sort of effect on it. Green's one of my favourite colours, so that's a definite for me. Love this yarn so much. I've already made my pom-pom. You could have a ready bought pom-pom. There's lots of different ways you can do it, but this is my favourite way. This is a pom-pom maker, and it is one by Clover. I've used them in other videos. They're quite easy to use. Great, because if you wanted to do a two-coloured pom-pom or something like that, you can do one colour on one side. And basically, you join it together after you've wound it. And the instructions, I'm pretty sure the instructions are on the packet, but these are definitely worth buying. Love them. I've got smaller ones and bigger ones as well of those. So we'll put that to one side, because I've actually made my pom-pom in advance for that. I have my scissors. These are my Octo buttons, like I mentioned, so you could sew any button on. I think adding that button sort of really gives the sort of hat another sort of dimension. So I just think it's really cute. So those are my buttons. We don't need those either at the moment. I have my scissors. I actually have a pen to one side of me for once. And this is a 3mm crochet hook. Remember, I'm going to be working in UK terms. I will put a tiny conversion just sort of on the bottom, as I mentioned before. So it's in the description bit, just to sort of say, I'll put UK, US. But like I say, I'm hoping some of you are going to tell me sort of where you come from and what system you use to give me an idea. So we'll get a little bit of this yarn taken out and we're going to get on with it. Now, this is going to start amigurumi style. There's a little knot in my yarn there, so I'm going to cut that off before I even start, because I don't want to get to that point and then it makes a little lump in whatever you're making. That's not good. So I'll take a little bit more yarn out. Here we go. So I'm going to start with my slip knot onto my hook. Ta-da! And I'm going to start with my 2 chain, which I start all my amigurumi with. Now we're going to have 6 double crochets, UK double crochets, into that first chain. So here we go. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So we have 6 stitches there. Well, obviously we need more than 6 stitches. So now we're going to do 2 double crochets into each of those 6. Okay, so find that first one and 2 stitches into the same place. So that's first lot of 2, second lot of 2, third, fourth, 5 and 6. So we now have 12 stitches. I'm just tightening up that middle one. Don't pull too hard, it can snap your yarn if you're not careful. So we now have 12 stitches. Obviously that is nowhere near enough for our doll, but I'm now going to move on to half trebles. Now if you can do a treble, you can do a half treble. There's just a variation on a theme. This is what our half treble is going to look like, and there's going to be 2 in every single one of those 12, so it's going to give us 24 stitches. So we do need to count on this. Basically, I'm not going to start, I'm going to go straight into it. Yarn round into the stitch, pull it through. We have 3 on the hook here, and you're going to grab that yarn and pull through all 3. That is a half treble. We're going to do another one in that same space through all 3. So that's our first stitch of the 12. So here is number 2. Remember, all 3. That's number 2, number 3, so 2 in number 3, 2 in number 4, 2 in number 5, 2 in 6, starts to get easy when you get past these first rounds, 2 in number 7, 2 in 8. These are all half trebles. I know it's easy to sort of revert back to your double crochet, so watch what you're doing with that. I've done it loads of times. So I've lost count. Did I say 7? I did. Well, we're going to go for 8 anyway on this one, and I'll count it at the end. So 2 in number 8, 2 in number 9, 2 in number 10, 2 in number 11, and our last one, 2 in number 12. And I better give a quick count now, because I should have 24 stitches there. So fingers crossed. Here we go. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I'm happy with that. So I've got 24 stitches. Still not enough, because that's not going to fit on a Smartdoll head, is it? So wherever I've put my tiny weeny stitch marker that I had, I've got a tin of stitch markers here, so I'm not really worried. So I will get a larger one out, I think. I'll get one of those. Those one of the ones, was this the Attic Spin Die one at Christmas? I think it might have been. So I'm going to pop my stitch marker in. Oh, this is a teeny weeny clasp. There, because I'm talking as well, sort of the counting becomes a little bit more difficult. I'm going to carry on with our half trebles, and we still need some increasing, but it's not going to be, oh, if I just dropped a stitch there, that's bad. Where are we? Can you see I've pulled it out. Let's put it back in there. All right, there we go. So we're going to increase, but it's going to be a 2 in the first one, then a 1, a 2, a 1, a 2 and a 1, all the way around, and we do that set 12 times. So 2 in one stitch, 1 in the next one, 12 times, or to your stitch marker, but we will count, we'll be good. So 2 in that first one, 1 half treble in the second one. That's our first set. 2 half trebles, 1 half treble, 2 half trebles, 1 half treble. And I'm going to do this all the way around to my stitch marker. I'm going to trust my stitch marker now. So if you're lucky enough to get a little bit of quiet time, I would recommend you do count. It's easier said than done. And if you forget what you've done, it's like then, oh, which have I done? That's a 2. So I know my next one's going to be 1. So that's the end of a set. The end of the set has to be the 1. So we're going to have a 2 and a 1. You see how it's nicely spreading out now. We have a 2 and a 1, a 2 and a 1, almost round. So we have 2 stitches and 1 stitch and 2 and 1, nearly there, a 2. Now we're using half trebles, it grows a little bit quicker. A 1, a 2, a bit more yarn out, and I need a 1, and I think there's going to be just one more set. I'm not sure until I can look at that stitch marker properly. We'll decide on that. A 2 and a 1. Let me see, am I right next to above my stitch marker? I am. So I've just gone stitch marker to stitch marker on that. It should give me 36 stitches, fingers crossed. We're now just going to do half treble rounds, and we're going to have 5 of them. So again, I'm trusting my stitch marker, but I do need to move it after the next round because it's being spiral, it will make a difference. So off we go. Let's say there should be 36 stitches here. Should we count them? I don't know. We'll count them. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's going to be okay, this actually. 9, 10. Oh, nearly dropped the stitch. That was number 11 that I've just dropped. Right, here we go. Number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. This is looking good. We have 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. This is the round you need to check you've got the right numbers. That's 30. I should have 6 more. 1, 2. Oh, that's a bit tight. 3, 4, 5 and 6. That's fine for me because my stitch marker will have moved over a little bit, because whether we like it or not, because it's spiral, it does move slightly, and because this is a longer stitch you need to move it more often. So I'm gonna pop it in there. So I've moved it up to the next layer. So I've got my pen here. That was round 1, and we need 5. Now some of you are probably going to whiz forward now. I'm just going to carry on sort of at a steady pace doing my 4 more rounds, because that's 1 already, isn't it? So off we go. Still half trebles. This is all half trebles until I say sort of otherwise, because there will be some trebles coming in at some point, but not yet. So this is for our round 2. So I'm just going to sort of go at a regular pace here. Again, if you want to slow me down, you can do, but you know you've got 5 rounds in total to do. So you could just pause me, do your 5 rounds and come back, or just sort of turn the volume off and put some music on perhaps and listen and do your 5, whichever works for you, the best way for you to crochet. So I'm just going to carry on, I say nice sort of steady pace. It's hard to know whether to get, some people it's too fast, some people it's too slow, but I think best thing to do is, as long as you understand what I'm saying, is sort of listen first and then sort of have a go. So you know, like I say, you've got 5 rounds, you don't need me from there, do you, till we get to the end of that 5. So this is my number 2 round, isn't it? I see it's starting to curl. That's good. That's good. It needs to curl, because that's what the hat needs to curl round. Oh, I don't know whether that's going to be very noisy. A motorbike or something's just gone past. I do live on a main road, so unfortunately sometimes if it's very loud traffic goes past, it might pick it up on the microphone. I'm not sure. Although I did notice today when I did my intros, they sound really echoey. I've changed my room round, so I suppose there's less on the walls, if that makes sense. Well, there's less in here, full stop, because the way I've had to alter it all. And I did think it sounded quite echoey. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to fill it with things just to stop it being echoey. We'll find some other way of doing it. Right, so I'm round, and that is my round number 2. Can you see it coming? So we've got 3 more rounds to do. Oh, well, I will if I can get my yarn out. There we go. You can see how it started to get bigger. Even though we're doing only 1 stitch in each, it still gets a little bit larger while you go. And again, because of the type of stitch it is, it will sort of stretch a little bit more as well. I know people do, drop that one then, people do mention how things come out bigger or smaller when they're doing it, but it can be different tensions with different people. If you find it's really big, drop a size on your hook, and that's usually enough to do it. I can't imagine you would really want to drop from this because this is only a 3mm hook, but you may need to make it a little bit bigger, go up a hook size. Your yarn might be different. I've noticed that massively. I know when I did the snood for the Smartdoll, I did it in 1 yarn, just a plain black double knit yarn, and that was fine. And then when I did it in the variegated, that was slightly thicker, and it did make a difference to the look. So sometimes it depends on your yarn. With this, as I say, it is a style craft yarn, which I do have a tendency to use for most of my basics, unless there's a particularly fancy variegated or a 4-ply that sort of takes my fancy, and then I will use different yarns. But on average, for my basic crochet, it's a style craft that I'll use, because I do find them quite consistent with their yarns, which is nice, and they're not overpriced. They're a nice price, but still a nice quality, which is nice. You don't get that very often. I've said that. How many times did I say nice then? I think I said it about 6 times, didn't I? But it is nice. Right, nearly round to our stitch marker, and that gives us a round 3, so we're over halfway. Right, so I'm going to stop there and make a mark that I have done 3 rounds, and I'm going to move my stitch marker up again, because otherwise it's going to end up completely in the wrong place. But you can see how we've got a nice shape coming for the top of the hat there. So we have 2 more rounds of those 36 stitches. So this is round 4. It's not actually a sort of long pattern. This is quite easy to do, but obviously it feels like a long time when I'm doing it this way. But I know if I was just sort of sat making it for myself, I know it doesn't take long. I think a beginner could be quite happily do this part. We're going to be doing a rib on it, which might sort of throw some of you, but have a go. You could just continue doing half trebles until it was at the length you wanted to, if you wanted to. I keep dropping these stitches, don't I? Which would give you sort of a nice beanie shape, and then sort of pop your pom-pom on top from there. But I am going to do a little rib. There we go. This is still round 4, aren't we? Do get distracted when I'm talking. Doesn't take much. The yarn is catching occasionally. I don't know whether it's because it's a variegated one. It seems to have got a bit of a fluff to it. Whenever there's sort of like a fluff, I don't know how much you can see, there's like little tiny weeny hairs sticking out. They do have a tendency to catch, especially if your work's a bit tight, which I do have a tendency to sort of crochet a little bit on the tight side. Almost round for number 4. To keep checking that I'm staying in the middle of the camera, because I wasn't too good when I did my little chick. I kept pulling it towards my body, so I've actually moved the camera position a little bit, so I'm hoping it's going to be okay. Because I do, if I was sat on the sofa, for example, crocheting, I do pull it quite close to my body, but when I'm doing the videos, I have to pull it sort of further away. I mean, this is quite a distance away from my body at the moment. Right, our last round of just 1 half treble into each stitch. And then we're going to change to our trebles after that, and our treble rib, which is a lovely way of doing a rib, but it is a bit of a weird one to explain to people. I know when I did the book, I had to sort of describe what a front and a back post treble was. It's not an easy one to explain in words. It's much easier to show somebody. Now I know I can sort of start telling people about the book. It is not a doll crochet pattern book, as much as I would love to do one. This isn't one, because you put suggestions into the publishers and they decide whether they think your sort of objects warrant publishing. It's actually going to be the chocolate covers, my chocolate cozies. Now the book isn't out until July. But I will obviously make sure everybody knows as soon as it's sort of near that time. I know it's at the printers now. I actually haven't seen the final. I've seen sort of it in paper, you know, just normal printed off paper form, but I haven't seen it in book form yet. Not be long though. Oh, mat it again. Right, we're almost round for our final round. Yay! I think when I get on to doing trebles, it's not going to catch as much. I think it's because it's a half treble and you're having to pull through all 3 stitches rather than 2 at a time, which your treble does. So your treble's a little bit easier in that respect. With if your yarn's a little bit awkward, or it's catching or something like that, or sometimes if it's got like a sort of a piece, sort of glittery sort of part to it. I always call it the wrong thing. Then that catches as well. So you do have to be careful with some of these yarns. Right, I'm going to take my stitch marker out as well because you're not going to need it. Because when you're doing trebles, you're going to be able to see where we stop and start really easily. So stitch marker out. I think that's a cute little thing. And I'm going to actually do a slip stitch into my next stitch because I'm saying that's the end of my half trebles. Okay, and we're going to start with 3 chain, which counts as a treble, and every round will start with the 3 chain. So here we go, 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3, and then 1 treble into every stitch. If you're not sure on your treble, again, yarn round like we did for our half treble. We go in, we pull it through, and this time though, when we have 3, we just pull through 2 and then we pull through 2. Okay, so yarn round into the stitch and pull it through with 3 on the hook. We go through 2, we go through 2, and we're going to do that all the way around. Now this first round is just a plain treble round, but then the ones after that is where we're going to get our rib effect. So off we go. A treble definitely holds better with this yarn. So I think it's when you're pulling through 3 stitches, it makes it harder, so it's more likely to catch. You watch, I've said that, and I know I'm going to drop a stitch now, so we'll see how we go. The beauty of crochet, you drop a stitch, it's only 1 stitch, you can do it again. I think that was one of my big things why I like crochet over knitting. I used to hate it with knitting and you dropped a stitch and then you've got to try and pick it all the way up, especially if it's run and it's like, oh. And I don't think it, unless you're very expert at it, it never looks 100% right. And I used to get really frustrated with it. Quite often I used to pass it to my mum and say, oh, can you pick it up for me? Because I just not got the patience. Whereas with this, we drop a stitch. Who cares? We pick it up again. And you wouldn't even know it's ever happened. Right, we're almost round. Now this is where, as I say, if you want to do the rib, you can do the rib with me. If the rib is something you're really not happy with, just continue round either with the trebles or the half trebles and just make it sort of a basic sort of beanie shape without the rib. There's absolutely no reason why you can't do that, and it will still look super cute, especially if you've sort of done it in a nice yarn. Sometimes a fancy yarn can make your work look as if you've done so much more. Couple more stitches to go. Oh, it's rolling away. Get over there. Right, so these are our last stitch, and what I want to do is, you see where this 3 chain was, I need to go into the top of that 3 chain. I need to pull my yarn through into a slip stitch. Yep, so I've joined them together. Now, as I mentioned, each round will start with 3 chain, and we're only going to have 3 rounds of this treble rib. So we do 3 chain because each round is going to start with 3 chain, And then my camera's just gone dark on me. I hope I have enough battery power here. I'm going to wrap ready to do a treble. I'm going to go in from the front, around the back. That's going round the post. Pull it through and carry on with a treble. So that's one direction, but they have to be alternated. So the second one is round, and instead of going in from the front, we're going to go in from the back and over the front and pull it through. We'll do that again. So the first one, yarn round, comes in from the front, around the back, pull it through. So we're going around the post, not in the stitch. So yarn round, and this time it comes from the back to the front, over the front, back to the back, and pull it through. So it sounds more complicated than it is. So we're going from the front, so yarn round, in from the front, round the back, pull it in, 1, 2. This time from the back, pull it through. The back one's the harder one of the two, because from the front it's easy. You go in, under, and pull it through. But from the back, now this is how I have a tendency to do it. It goes round, we go in, over. I sort of then sort of pinch it a little bit here, because I need to make sure it comes through there, and that's not always so easy. So from the front and round the back, pull it through is easy. But then the back one, from the back over the front, try and pull it through there. That is where it catches. That is where you'll find it catches. So front, back, and through is easy. Back, over the front, and pull it through. You see, even then I sort of struggled a little bit. I'm trying to think of an easier way of actually showing it, because I'm not convinced it's showing that well. So yarn, so in, over. Now basically, can you see where it's gone? I sort of just squeeze that together and pull it through. Because it basically, one comes in from the front and the other one comes in from the back, and it's always around the post. I think that's about the only way I can sort of describe it, really. Opposite way around. After you've done the first round, it's pretty obvious where it goes, but that first round is harder. I'll show you why when we get through from the next round. We're about halfway now. So, oh, did my camera move then? I'm sure I saw it move. So we go one and then the other. So it's opposites. One from the front, one from the back. So the one is weird because the one from the front goes around the back, and the one from the back goes around the front. Can you imagine what it's like to write this out as a pattern? It was absolutely appalling. I mean, I did it, but thankfully with the book you get a pattern checker as well. So she was checking that I'd done it right. So I really do hope it makes sense. And I'm really concerned whether my camera is still filming. It's just gone completely dark on me. I think it did this once before, but it was still filming. So I'm going to carry on to get round this round, and I might actually have to pause. Well, you won't see the pause, I will see the pause, to charge my phone up a bit. I thought it was enough. I must admit, I knew I was pushing it because this is the second video that I've done. So where did I go from there? Did I go front or back then? There we go. That's the other thing as well. Make sure you know whether the last one was a front or a back, because sometimes you can't tell. Not for this round anyway. For the next round you'll be able to tell. Right, I'm all the way around now. So I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that 3 and I'll do 3 chain, 1, 2 and 3. Now can you see what I mean now? Like this piece here sticks upwards, that sticks downwards, so that sort of tells you that it just feels natural then. Yarn round, that's easy now because you can see it's sticking out, and the other one you can see is behind, so you know you've got to go behind and it slots in easier. So if you can get through that first round, this round is then easy. So this is my second round, isn't it? Yeah. And we need 3 rounds. I'm saying 3 rounds. I have done 3 rounds on one of my hats, but then the other one, because the yarn was different, I did change it. That is why you need to try it on your dolls, because if your yarn's thicker, you might not need an extra one. If it's thinner, you'll need an extra one. It does get very complicated. I wish there was more consistency with the yarn, and then perhaps it wouldn't be so difficult, but unfortunately there's no consistency unless you sort of keep to the same brand. That's about the only way I can suggest it, but you can't always get all brands in all countries. That's the other thing. I know sometimes people have asked me about yarns and it's like, yeah, it's this, but then they can't get it in their country because it's just not sold over there. And I've had vice versa. When I've bought yarns from other countries, it is very different than from ours. So it's a little bit hit and miss, I'm afraid. Right, see how easy this is. Sort of, I'm saying easy, it's not easy until you get into it. It took me a while to get used to the whole rib system, but I do love it so much that I persevered because I like the effect it creates. I know there's a different type of rib you can do in the opposite direction, which I quite like that one as well. Because I know people will say to you, you can't rib in crochet. Yes, you can. And there's 2 different ways of doing it. This, I think, is great for your amigurumi, but there are other ways of doing it. Say if you wanted a long string, that's not a term, is it? A strip of, what's the word, rib. Oh dear, am I like? There is a different way of doing it. But yes, you can rib in crochet. Pull a little bit more. Oh, we're nearly there. You've got to watch out because can you see that slopes and you can miss it sometimes. You can miss and carry on round without even knowing. We have 2 more stitches. Always watch that at the end because sometimes you miss that very last one. But it is there. If you check where that is, that's in line with that. So there is a stitch left. In we go. And slip stitch into the top of that 3 chain. Right, so I'm going to have a quick look at that now, because if I pull in my other green one, you can see I do need 1 more round. But then if I pull in this thicker one, it only took 3. It only took 2 because it's a much thicker yarn. It's still a double knit, but it is thicker. So try it on your doll now. See how it sits. We're going to do another round, which I would do to finish mine off. I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to let you try it on your doll and you decide where you want it. In fact, let's pull her over and I'll show you what I mean. You might not want it any longer anyway, but try it onto your doll. See, that's not bad. I'm still going to do another round. I feel it needs 1 more round because I like the hats to sit a little bit lower. But that comes down to personal preference. So try it on your doll now and decide whether that's where you want it. Apart from that, I have my pom-pom here. Now, with my pom-poms, basically what I do, in fact, I know I've not finished this, but I'm going to show you what I do with the pom-pom. That'll do. It's a big chunky needle, but for what I need, it doesn't matter. Easiest way to attach one. Well, as I thought, my camera died, so unfortunately I was just about to show you how to put a pom-pom on. I carried on putting the pom-pom on and the phone had died. I looked up and it had gone. So I'd already sewn it onto this one, so I've got another one here. It's this, oh, it takes seconds literally, but it just looked a bit weird if I didn't finish it. So we're going to take that off. This is one of the nice rusty coloured ones. I love this colour. And like I say, it might look like it's a bit glitchy between the two parts of the film, but apologies for that. So basically what I was saying is I'd started to thread this one and I'd said we chose a position just to push it through. And we're going to do the same with the other one, but we're not going to thread it through at the same point because otherwise your pom-pom will come through. We need to find just sort of maybe 1/2 centimetre, something like that difference, and push it through again. Now I can take the needle off. I'm going to pull that really tight and I'm going to turn it inside out. And then I've got my 2 threads here. As you can see with this one, I'd already sewn my ends in, so it was easier perhaps. Nice and tight. Nice and tight. And 1 more for luck. And then basically these ends are then going to thread in like you would any other yarn. Now this makes your pom-pom pretty secure. I know in past times I've tried stitching it on and for some reason it always left it a little bit loose, but when I do it this way it does keep the pom-pom on nice and tight, so it is worth doing it. You may have a better way, but however it works for you, but I just find that's an easier way of doing it, and it doesn't take much doing, does it, that? So that is it. Even though I've added an extra hat on there, you see those are the two green ones. I did actually finish, I did an extra round on that like I said I would. I'm finished it off, so that's done. So one of those are for my girls. The other one, I've not decided actually yet whether it's going to go to Dollycon or whether it's going on my website, but it'll be going up for sale one way or the other. So that is my little basic pom-pom hat that you can sort of customize. To be honest, there was one thing I had started thinking about, which I will show, because I've got a pom-pom here that's not fully finished. I had considered 2 pom-poms. That looks quite cute. You can't really position it properly because of that, but imagine if it has 2 ears. I think that would look quite cute. So yes, you can sort of play with it. It's a design that you can alter as you go. So that's it, the end of our tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy my videos, you know what to do. Please like, subscribe and share. There's always a mixture, whether it be doll crochet, whether it be gifty crochet, just silly little bits, maybe an antique store find, all sorts of bits, my doll things as well. So I'm quite eclectic, so you might only want to watch certain videos if you're the crochet person. But we'll see you all very soon. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye for now.